Hi, I'm Ekus from Tropic Marin. It's great to see that you're thinking about carbon dosing in your reef tank. I'm a big fan. In this short video today, I'm going to show you how to use this flyer that you have to determine exactly which of the Tropic Marin carbon dosing products is going to be right in your particular system. Now, before we even get to carbon dosing, we've got to determine what your phosphate level actually is. To do that, I like to use the Tropic Marin Professional Phosphate Kit. With the enclosed comparator and the color chart, it's very easy to look down and determine within very tight parameters what that phosphate level is. Now, once you know your phosphate level, you pull out that flyer that you've got. Now, you'll notice there's two products at the bottom of the wheel of the flyer. Those are the Reef Actif and the NP-Bacto pellets. Now, those two products are a very gentle way of carbon dosing, and frankly, you can use them by themselves, you can use them in conjunction with each other, or you can use one or both along with any of the other carbon dosing products that we're going to talk about in a minute. So the Reef Actif and the NP-Bacto pellets, great way to get into carbon dosing, big benefit, very, very low risk. Now, let's say you've got lots of nutrients in your system. Your phosphate levels measured out on the kit, 0.1 ppm or above. You take that wheel and you rotate it over to the 0.1 ppm or above area, and you'll see that it shows you the product Amino-NP. Amino-NP is the most aggressive of our carbon dosing products, and it's going to use the existing phosphates in your system to sustain the carbon dosing, which means that that phosphate level is going to go down. Once you get down under 0.1, now we consider the sweet spot to be 0.1 ppm down to about 0.04 or 0.03 ppm. I'm going to rotate that wheel now up to that range right there, and you'll see now that we're looking at the NP-Bacto balance. Now, what the NP-Bacto balance is going to do for you is that it's going to give you the carbon dosing, but it's also going to add some phosphates and nitrates to sustain the carbon dosing that it's doing, hopefully keeping you in that sweet spot range. Now, if your system is running super efficiently, or maybe you're coming off of an ultra low nutrient system where your nutrients are below, your phosphates are below that 0.03 level, rotate that wheel around and you'll see now we're looking at the plus NP. The plus NP is going to be more aggressive at adding the phosphates and nitrates because they're not in the system, along with the carbon dosing. This will help get that ultra low nutrient status up into that sweet range of 0.03 ppm to 0.1 ppm phosphates. Once you get up into that area, you'll rotate that wheel back again, and now you'll see that you're up again at the NP-Bacto balance. So once you get up into 0.04, 0.05, 0.06, now you go back to the NP-Bacto balance, and that'll help keep you in that area. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about each of the products, on the back of the flyer, you'll see each of the products listed with a description and also a QR code, which will take you to a page that has more information about each one of those products. If you'd like to learn more about carbon dosing in general, stay on this video because I'm going to have a general overview that's going to talk more about what carbon dosing is and what it does. So stay tuned for that. So we're going to look at something in a different way than you've been hearing about it, and it's carbon dosing. Carbon dosing, I'm a big fan of carbon dosing. I'll put that right out there right now. But carbon dosing has gotten a bad rap. And carbon dosing gets a bad rap because most of the time it's not done correctly. People say, oh, I want to lower my phosphate nitrate level. Let's throw in a bunch of vodka or vinegar or sugar or one of the other products that's made. There's tons of different ways to do it. It turns out that not all carbon dosing is created equal. And in my opinion, it's not really for lowering your nitrate and phosphate level. There's a much more important thing that it does. And what I want to do as my last little thing today is to talk about the really important thing that carbon dosing does. Now, there's a reason that everybody says carbon dosing is for lowering your phosphate and nitrate level. It's because The theory of carbon dosing comes from commercial fish aquaculture, where they want to grow, 10,000 sun bass in a big tank, and it's way overpopulated. And if they carbon dose, they can get the nitrate and the phosphate level down. So that kind of bled over into the aquarium trade, that using the carbon dosing is for lowering the phosphate nitrate level. And it does do that, and that's a great byproduct, but it's a byproduct. Here's how it really works. Here's our coral polyp again. Now, coral polyps have an excellent mechanism for taking nitrates out of the water column. And they have a lousy mechanism for taking phosphates out of the water column. And this is really unfortunate, because they can live in a zero nitrate environment and they can't live in a zero phosphate environment. So the very thing that they need, they don't have the ability to get at the very low concentrations that we keep them in reef aquariums. Now, there is beneficial bacteria that's floating all around the aquarium and living inside the corals and living inside everything. There's all kinds of beneficial bacteria and fungi in that aquarium. And the interesting thing about that beneficial bacteria and fungi is that it has exactly the opposite. It's got an excellent mechanism for getting phosphates out of the water column, and pretty lousy mechanism for getting nitrates out of the water column. So the way carbon dosing works is this. Here's our beneficial algae, and he's going to eat a bunch of phosphate. He's going to swim around the tank and eat a bunch of phosphate. So he's got a bunch of phosphate inside of him. All right. Now we go, and that lowers the phosphate level in the aquarium, because he's eaten it, took it out of the water column. All right. Now we go to our aquarium, and there's our coral polyp again. And this bacteria and fungi is going to float around the tank filled with phosphate, and the coral is going to eat a lot of it. And if you can see there's a guy over here, because the skimmer is going to take some out too, so we let that guy escape. But most of the bacteria is going to be eaten by the corals. And when they eat the bacteria, they're getting the phosphate in them. All right? And that maintains that phosphate out of the water column, and now it's in the corals. And the corals needed that phosphate in order to grow. Now what happens is the corals start to grow. And remember, the corals have a really good mechanism for getting the nitrates out of the water column. So as the corals grow, the nitrates come out of the water column. That's why the phosphates and the nitrate level go down with carbon dosing. And the really key thing here, the most important thing, is that yes, your nitrate and phosphates went down, but much more importantly, we gave the coral polyps a mechanism for getting those phosphates that they really need when our phosphate levels are down under 0.1, which is extremely difficult for them to do. That, to me, is way more important. I could do a bunch of water changes and get the nitrate and phosphate level down in the tank, but it didn't go into anything that needed it. It went into my drain. So, hopefully, some of this was understandable for you today. You saw that we took some simple concepts and made them a little bit more complicated, but we also took some simple ones, some complicated ones, and made them a little bit more simple for you. I am available at 3:01 to answer whatever questions you guys have. If you have further questions, I think I've got a stack of cards here in the back that I can give anybody a card that they would like. And I'm done a little bit early, so I'm also happy to entertain any questions that you guys might have. Thanks for taking the time today, and I hope your life is filled with symbiosis.